Viewers and subscribers, welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa, and today we are going to be reviewing the two big matches on the weekend. Arsenal running away 4-2 winners over Aston Villa and in the process regaining their position at the top of the table. And Liverpool versus Newcastle, where Liverpool ran out 2-0 winners. Joining me this evening to review these two matches, we have with us Carey.
Yes, viewers and subscribers. Another week, another Arsenal win, back on top. So can't wait to get into that discussion.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Arsenal bouncing back and coming from behind to win 4-2 versus Aston Villa. So we are going to jump in right there with that match. Carey, what were your thoughts on that match and indeed on the result?
Well, I said from last week that I think this was a match that Arteta highlighted on the schedule and tell the guys that, listen, we're not about to run a farm. It's clear to everyone. But this is a match that can, help us to gain some confidence. Aston Villa, poor on a farm as well. As we said, we thought that the better team on paper would have more likely come out with the victory. We won in a style or manner that we didn't really expect, but in a title race, a win is a win. There's 3 points that count. It doesn't matter how you get the 3 points, as long as you get your 3 points. So we may have won the game in a very entertaining fashion, but not the performance that we probably would have wanted. Because of course you want to go away and maintain a clean sheet. But we got the 3 points. So that is what's important at the end of the day.
Yes, indeed. It was a very fascinating and exciting match. It went straight down to the wire. The scorer may have ended 4-2, but it was really a tight affair up to 90 minutes, to be honest. Aston Villa taking the lead, Arsenal coming back to level 1-1, Aston Villa going ahead 2-1, Arsenal coming back to level 2-2, and then eventually going ahead and then running away 4-2 winners. So as you said, it's not the manner you probably expected. You still anticipated an Arsenal win in terms of bouncing back from that defeat to Man City.
Definitely.
But I guess the comfort level in which the team played and the anticipated result isn't what we were probably anticipating. But as you said, 3 points on the board is 3 points on the board. So gaining these 3 points, again, Arsenal went back to the top of the league. And of course, with Man City coming up less than expected with a draw against Nottingham Forest, it's even a sweeter victory to savor.
Exactly.
But in terms of key performances and tactics, what did you see from either team?
Well, Arsenal, I got one of the substitutions that I wanted. Of course, Trossard came in. Trossard started. Ben White came back into the team. So that he's back into the team. He made an error for one of the goals, very bad positioning on the Aston Villa's second goal, if I'm correct, the one that Coutinho tucked away really, really neatly. He made a mistake, but outside of that, he had pretty much a solid game. So you're getting back into the team. Trossard, he looked okay. But the key moment really for me was the substitution. Actually, Martin coming off the bench. I've been touting for Martin to be bench, and a lot of persons probably took that as me saying Martin is not a good player. But it's quite the opposite. He's a good player, but he's just out of form at the moment. And sometimes the bench is what a player needs to really help them regain that focus. We can look on Son at Spurs for an example. Most of Son goals for this season is him coming off the bench. And it's not that he's a bad player, we know Son is class, but sometimes they need that motivation. And that substitution was a key moment into the game where Martinelli came in and we saw that the last 2 goals came from him in terms of somewhat, let's call it an assist to Jorginho. Yes, it was an own goal by Martinez, but let's say call it as an assist to an extent. And then he got the goal where he ran away clean from Aston Villa. and tucked it out. I really, really see the victory 4-2. Another key moment was Ramsdale. He made a save from our star boy, Leon Bailey. He made a save there, which kept the game at 2-2. I believe that if that save wasn't made and we were down 3-2, the most we probably could have got out of that match at that point was a draw. So I think that was very, 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 very vital to Arsenal coming out victors. And as I said, it's a good way to bounce back on top of the table. If we realize now some of the critics that we heard last week and the week before, we're not hearing them again. Everybody's a bit quiet. You know, the whole punchline, the one punch pony or whatever you want to call it.
One,
And the
one
Chelsea
trick
Hearts,
pony, you know.
the one trick pony, whatever they want to call it, you know, the one trick pony, but yet the Chelsea Hearts can't even fly out of the gates. So the one trick pony seems to be galloping well. So I'm really proud of the boys that came to show that, yes, they're really, really fighting for the title. Last key moment for me was in the celebration. Saliba held the Arsenal badge and said, "This is Arsenal."
Mm.
And I think that speaks to the chemistry and the hunger and desire that's in the team now. That they're confident in themselves that, yeah, man, we can go and get the title.
So
So that
Arsenal are
was
now officially in a title race then.
they're officially in the title race. I still have it to be City's title to lose, but Arsenal is still in the title race.
I see, I see. Well, I mean, Aston Villa to me played a very good game. You know, they came well prepared, I would think, and they pretty much gave Arsenal a run for their money. You know, taking the lead twice, I'm sure they would be disappointed at the final result. You know, unfortunate own goal there by Martinez, the former Arsenal goalkeeper as well. And that to me was the turning point in the game, you know. Once Arsenal got that go-ahead game, Aston Villa then had to push everything they had forward, and that pretty much led to that fourth goal deep into extra time. But that key moment was that shot from Jorginho hitting the post and then ricocheting back off the goalkeeper into the back of the net. And I guess when you're in a title race, you know, sometimes that luck is needed,
It has to
you know,
go
at
your way,
times.
definitely.
So it was a very entertaining game, a very fascinating game. You know, I saw where Emery also made some changes to his lineup, you know, where he brought back Mings. But again, to me, Mings is one where you see he always has a key mistake in a game, and oftentimes it goes punished.
Yeah,
You know,
that's it.
and that's pretty much what led to that first strike by Saka, you know, a very poor defensive header. I mean, we're taught as youngsters that for a defensive header you should head up and out, but he pretty much head down, almost like
Straight to
he
Saka's foot.
assisted Saka on that goal. You know, so that was a pretty horrendous error there by Mings, but we know that's one of his characteristic where an error is always somewhere thereabout when it comes on to Mings. But Aston Villa played a good game. They put up a good fight at home. You know, the crowd was into it, especially after taking the
Yes,
lead.
man.
But
It was
the
a
quality
brilliant
of
game.
Arsenal eventually stood out and they walked away victorious. So, you know, that was on Saturday. On Sunday, we had, or later in the day, I should say, later on Saturday, we had Newcastle facing off with Liverpool, another big fixture where both teams are Newcastle, I should say, surprisingly right up there in the top four currently, while Liverpool is somewhat off this season, languishing in mid-table. So from a
Mhm.
name point of view, it was two big teams, but from a positional point of view, it was like a top four team versus a mid-table team. You know, I believe Newcastle even went into that game as slight favorites, playing at home as well. But what was your impression on that game and in the final result?
But the thing with that game is, it was it was going well up to some point. We all saw what happened where Nick Pope made that very, we don't even know what to describe it as. I think everybody's kind of dumbfounded to what he did. He made a blatant error, which I think came to the pride of the fans, the coaches, everybody. Even Liverpool was kind of shocked at what he did. But Liverpool, I said it from last week, that Liverpool seemed to be finding the rhythm and not getting ahead of ourselves, but it seems like they're getting there. Nunes for the past 2 games really looking alive. Gakpo, I mentioned him the last podcast that he scored his first goal last week. He got that quote unquote demon off him now, so he's playing free spirited. He's more relaxed. He's playing free spirited. We saw the result of that. Nunes just the same. He's linking up better with Salah. Salah seems more invested in playing with them now. So good sign from Liverpool. It was a really bad day for Newcastle. They were seeking to put some pressure on the top three, but they came out. The keeper really threw that match away for them. After that, it was kind of, we all knew how it would have ended after Pope got that red card. Because you're a couple goes down, keeper get a red card. Chances of you coming back are slim to none. Practically impossible, one could say. So we saw where that was headed. And now they slipped out of the top four. So let's see if they can bounce back. They're having a very, very poor enough form since coming from the World Cup. They have only just one win in the league since returning from World Cup, and that has really impacted their Champions League hopes. It's still alive, but it's under pressure though.
Yes, yes. Yes, I found that game to be very interesting and curious at the same time. And I say that to say, for the first 20 minutes, it was Liverpool. I mean, within the first 20 minutes, Liverpool went 2-0 up. Uncharacteristic of Newcastle with such what should I say? They've been keeping clean sheets
Clean
all
sheets left, right,
season.
and center.
They have conceded the least number of goals in the league, so it was very uncharacteristic of them to be down 2-0 within the first 20 minutes, and then roughly somewhere in the 20 to 30 minute spread, we saw the goalkeeper being drawn off his line, went out of the 18 and handling outside his 18-yard box, which led to a red card. So you then had Newcastle 10 men and 2-0 down. However, they grew into the game. One would expect now that Liverpool would take the game to them and totally dominate proceedings. But it was the opposite. Newcastle solidified, made some tactical changes, and grew into the game. It was down to the heroics of Alisson, which basically kept them from scoring. And if one had gone in, then with the crowd behind them playing at home, the shifting momentum, anything could have happened. So it was a good victory for Liverpool on one hand, in that they are now building up a level of momentum that's now 2 wins on the trot, up against Champions League specialist Real Madrid in midweek. So there is some momentum there going into that game and also in the league, but it's the manner in which I am still somewhat concerned. I'm still not convinced they have turned this proverbial corner. Because playing against 10 men, it should have been a much simpler affair. But as I mentioned, Alisson had to pull out several one-on-one saves. I remember quite a number of saves Alisson having to make. Top-notch saves, one-on-one situations, and Newcastle were playing with 10 men. So that to me surprised me somewhat. And as a result, I am still not fully convinced that Liverpool has indeed turned this corner. A number of players are coming back from injury, but there is still something missing in that midfield, in my opinion. All the bells are not clicking at the same time currently. They're doing enough to win, but not win convincingly. But time is the master, and we'll see what transpire. But I mean, in terms of the key talking points, outside of that obvious red card, what else did you see from both teams in terms of maybe a key player performance or key moments within the game?
Yeah, man, we saw Almiron. Almiron was looking quite lively. He put Alice under pressure, and the entire back line he put under pressure. Isak, he's returning, but you can say he's gaining some form of confidence. You know, it was a good little cameo from the young son. It was sad that they didn't get a goal, but I think they're still motivated because they're just 1 point behind Tottenham
Right, right.
in the Champions League race, and they have a match in hand on Tottenham.
Mm,
But on the flip side, I think Klopp is going to galvanize his men now as well because they smell blood coming from Spurs and Newcastle because Liverpool is now just 7 points behind Spurs in fourth place with 2 matches in hand on Spurs. So there's still hope. You know, the title, the fourth spot kind of just swung open. So there's hope for both teams, Liverpool, Newcastle. So I think, but as you mentioned, though, there's something still missing in that Liverpool midfield. You know, so I think how things go this season, they will definitely bolster up in the summer transfer window.
yes.
But let's say Van Dijk, he's just coming from injury. You know, he's
Right,
not
right.
as sharp as he should be. But all in all, I think after the red card, Liverpool kind of eased off the gas pedal a bit because I think that mentally they said, all right, this match is done and dusted. So they kind of eased off the gas pedal, invited pressure on them. But I wasn't too concerned about that, to be honest, because I saw where they definitely ease off the gas pedal.
Mm. Yeah, as I said, my concern really is defensively, as I said, chance creation. Far too many clear-cut chances were created. And as we've seen with Newcastle, they are somewhat lacking an offensive cutting edge where they are unable to, get get the ball over the line and push on from a case of oftentimes drawing a game to eventually winning a game. And again, I saw somewhat of that coming out in this game where they created quite a few openings, a few from set pieces and a few from open play, which if taken, it could have been a totally different game. But how has the boys turning the wheels? A lot of energy, very spirited performance. They could have crumbled having gone down to 10, but I thought we saw the opposite of that where, they came together as a team and really gave it their all, of course, pushed by the home crowd support as well. So it made for an interesting game. The red card somewhat spoiled the game in itself, where you were looking for that key matchup to, mano y mano, so to speak. But with the red card, it definitely, as you said, killed off the game somewhat, where it was now 11 against 10. So you really could not make a clear-cut judgment as to who is the better team. And surprisingly, Newcastle have now lost 2 games for the season, and both games came at the hands of Liverpool. So
Liverpool.
that's a very interesting statistic there. But looking forward, overall, how do you see the league playing out at this moment in time? I mean, we see battles at the top end of the table. We see battles for the top 4. And we also see a relegation dogfight taking place where the teams who were in the relegation spot all won this weekend. What are your thoughts?
You know, as I said, it's a very, very interesting season because I know for the last couple of weeks, Arsenal has come under fire, but since returning from the World Cup, Man City has dropped 10 points. Arsenal has also dropped 10 points coming in from, the World Cup. So that made things really interesting there. Meanwhile, though, Man U has now placed pressure on the first and second because they are picking up points and wins left, right, and center. Rashford is in a very amazing form. Very, very amazing form. I think this is the best football we've ever seen from Rashford. And it comes at a time which is very vital for Man U. As I mentioned, the top 4 is still open, especially at 4th place. Any team from 4 to 8, Liverpool 4 to 8, has a chance of getting that 4th spot. Brighton is there just the same, Newcastle, Spurs, Liverpool. At the relegation end, it's you can't even judge because it changes almost every week.
Mm.
It's just maybe
Tight,
3 points to 4 points that separates 15 to 20. So it's very, very interesting there as well. And to Nottingham getting a point there, Wolves losing, they're dropping points. It's really interesting. It's an interesting battle. We can't call the relegation zone as yet, but we can see the top three teams who there will be. Not sure how they will finish, but the top three kind of pulling away at this
separating
point.
themselves.
Definitely.
Yes, yes. Well, viewers and subscribers, again, thank you for joining us. That brings us to the end of the podcast. I'd just like to thank Carey for passing through again and sharing his thoughts and his opinions. I just like to encourage you guys out there to continue to share the podcast and also continue to like and subscribe. And until next time, this is Rafa signing off.